Update you 24/7.
Jesus Christ in John chapter 3 says, "The wind bloweth where it listeth, but we do not know whence it comes or where it goes." I suppose he might have included hurricanes as well, because we sometimes do not know the path of hurricanes. And of course, the devastation it causes upon mankind can be catastrophic. You guessed it, we continue our discussion on natural or supernatural disasters. And here in the studio is our meteorologist, Paula Wellington of the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's start off this question of hurricanes by asking, what is the hurricane season? Why does hurricane have a season, really?
Okay, hurricanes have a season because of the apparent movement of the sun. The sun, well, we know the sun does not move, but it looks as if it moves.
Right.
So as the sun moves northward over the equator and southward over the equator, we will have the seasons change. So during the northern hemisphere summer, which is when the sun moves over the northern hemisphere, over the Tropic of Cancer, northern hemisphere will experience its summer time. We will have greater solar radiation over the northern part of the earth. And with that increase in temperature, which is one of the necessary things that is needed for hurricanes, we will have those storms following. So with the apparent movement of the sun north and south, you will have those that will cause the seasons to change.
Does that have anything to do with where hurricanes take place? Because there are some areas that are more prone to hurricanes than other areas.
Okay, a hurricane is a tropical cyclone.
Right.
So from the name, we can tell that it occurs in the tropics.
Right.
Loosely, it will occur between 30 degrees north latitude and 30 degrees south latitude. Hurricanes are the term that is used in the northern Atlantic area. In different parts of the world, you will hear typhoon, you will hear tropical cyclone, you will hear cyclone. But in the northern Atlantic area, we would have the term hurricane being used. And that season usually runs from 30th of June, the 1st of June, to the 30th of November.
Right.
That is our hurricane season. All right. Now, there may be exceptions to the rule where you can have hurricanes forming outside of the season before June 1st and after November 30th.
And I suspect certain conditions have to be in place for these hurricanes.
Of course. Of course, certain conditions must be in place. We must have warm sea surface temperatures. It must be, well, hurricanes don't usually form at the equator, but so once it's 5 degrees away from the equator going up to 30, you can have the formation of a hurricane. Once the area is humid and unstable because of the passing of tropical waves and all those things that we usually have in our rainy season, it creates an unstable atmosphere, as well as the ITCZ. It's in our area at that point in time, around that season. So we have the humidity there, increase in moisture in the atmosphere. We have the instability, which would be triggers for hurricane formation.
Would you consider that tornadoes being part of the family of hurricanes, or is it a different thing altogether?
A tornado is a product of a thunderstorm, whereas a hurricane is made up of a number of thunderstorms. So a tornado is a small scale turning or a small scale circulation coming from a thunderstorm. So the scales are different, the categorizations are different, the area it travels is different.
The duration.
The duration is different, yes, and where they form as well is also different.
I do not know your age, and I don't presume to guess it either, but you may have heard of a hurricane that took place in a devastated Tobago in the 1960s. I think they call it Hurricane Flora. That's right. I only heard about it, so don't get any any ideas there. But somehow Trinidad seems to be a country escaping hurricanes. Why is that? Is it that God is a Trini, as they say?
Well, we would like to thank God it's a Trini, but it is location basically. Trinidad and Tobago just lies on the fringe of the hurricane belt. So we would be just in the area. It doesn't mean that we're not prone to hurricanes affecting us, but we are in the area where it may be quite infrequent.
Okay. But if it does, can it reach up to the maximum sustained winds, the way hurricane category 5 and that kind of thing, or would it be maybe improbable?
I would not say it wouldn't happen because we remember Ivan that devastated Grenada, and that was a pretty strong hurricane. So I don't want to say because we're so far south or we are on the fringe of the hurricane belt that we will not be affected by a very strong hurricane.
So in short, Trinidad and Tobago should not relax, should not, treat hurricanes with any sort of cavalier response or have a nonchalant response to hurricanes.
No, we should still be prepared for the event. Even the event of one thunderstorm or one thunder shower that we usually have in the rainy season on afternoons. If you recall, we usually get some havoc whenever there is a thunder shower over Port of Spain or certain parts of the island. So if we can protect ourselves or have caution during one thunderstorm, I believe we will be able to have caution or be able to protect ourselves during a hurricane.
Now, I don't know if you have any training along the line of being a safety officer, but what precautions would you give or what advice would you give to some citizens as to the advent of hurricanes in their particular locale?
Okay, I think people should know the areas that they live in. What are the risks involved in those areas? If it's a flood-prone area, if it's prone to landslides, if that area can be cut off, if there is some kind of event occurring there. So they should be aware of the risk that is involved in their particular area. And preparing for a hurricane doesn't necessarily mean that you have to wait until the hurricane comes or the rainy season comes.
Right.
You make preparations before. So things like cleaning the drains. You may not want to clean your drains, but you can call someone who is able or has the ability to do those things, or put up retaining walls, or take whatever necessary means needed to protect your property, your life in an event that there is a tropical storm, a thunderstorm, a hurricane. All right. Also having an emergency plan, having a plan that the family knows about, a muster point, a meeting point. Where do you go in case of an emergency? Have your emergency supplies. And ODPM has done a very good job in listing all the emergency supplies that you should have ready to go if you need to.
Speaking of which, sometimes in the midst of all the panic and all the rumors, people tend to hear all kinds of things as to when the hurricanes are coming or what is coming and what is happening. What advice would you give to citizens in terms of news and the information that is needed? Okay,
the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, once there is an event, a severe weather event, a tropical storm or anything, once it gets into our flight information area, we usually put out a bulletin. So persons should listen out or look out for a bulletin. It's posted on Facebook. It's ODPM also reposts our bulletins, and the media usually has that kind of information to disseminate to the public. You would see a ticker tape onto your TV screen, text message, Facebook, Twitter. All these media are being used now, and a lot of times erroneous information gets out via rumors or somebody say something. You get to the authority, the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, their website, or ODPM, and that information from those sources should be a lot more viable than.
Let me ask you a very strange question as we seek to wrap this thing up, at least this segment. Insurance companies tend to label these disasters as acts of God. Do you think that's a justified sobriquet, if you like? for hurricanes and earthquakes and other such disasters? Is there a positive side to hurricanes?
The Bible says that there's a purpose for everything under the sun. And the tropics are an area that has a surplus of heat, of momentum, of moisture that needs to be transported to different parts of the earth. And hurricanes are, I believe, created to do such transportation efficiently, to take that momentum, to take that energy, that heat up to the upper atmosphere and to the northern and southern parts of the globe where there is a lack and such. So yes, hurricanes has a purpose. The thing is, why we see it as being a violent act or class it as an act of God, thinking negatively about it, is because of the death toll, it's because of the damages, the costs, the increased costs because you spend more money on infrastructure, on buildings, on vehicles, on whatever, and this phenomena, destroys it in no time at all. So the cost is high, the life lost may be high at times, and we look at hurricanes in a negative sense. But I believe there is a purpose to it.
Beautiful. It's like the statement we make, that is made in the scriptures, out of evil cometh good. In this case, out of something good, evil happens, not because it is evil in itself, but because, as you said, there wasn't adequate preparation, or because of the devastation it would have caused.
Yes.
Thank you, sister. I call you Sister Paula Wellington, for taking the time to be with us today on DC 24/7. We are talking about natural and supernatural disasters. This is the natural side of it. When we come back, we will talk about the supernatural. We'll be right back.
We are a chosen generation, called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are a chosen generation, called for to show His excellence.
Welcome back to JC 24/7 as we look at the whole question of disasters, natural or supernatural. And joining us on set here is Samuel Ellis, the Vice President of ADRA. Thank you for taking the time to be with us on JC 24/7, sir.
My pleasure.
Before we get into our discussion, ADRA, what does ADRA stand for? It's an acronym, I suppose.
It is.
That
and
stands
it
for?
Simply stands for Adventist Development Relief Agency.
Beautiful. And this has been around for how many years?
Oh, decades.
Briefly, what does ADRA do?
ADRA is an organization that was established by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. In the first instance, the D used to be disaster. Now it's development. So our business was bringing relief to people who found themselves affected by natural disasters mainly.
Okay.
And we would provide humanitarian support for other people who found themselves experiencing some kind of disaster that may not have been natural.
Okay, I hear you. When you say Adventist Church, we're not talking about the Seventh Adventist Church in Trinidad.
Oh no, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Trinidad is just a local chapter, if you would, for the Seventh-day Adventist Church globally.
Okay.
And so ADRA is in fact an international organization.
So you respond to different types of
Different types depending on the territory.
Oh, very well. Does that territory include places like Dominica?
Oh, most certainly it does, because ADRA does in fact exist in Dominica, like it does in Trinidad.
Okay.
But as you would understand, Trinidad is the economic, technology and manufacturing center of the Caribbean, save and apart from Jamaica, per se. And whenever disasters occur in our sister islands, one of the fallback positions taken by most of those islands is to stretch the hand in appeal to Trinidad and Tobago. And so ADRA Trinidad in fact has a program being planned to bring some relief to the Dominica situation. And we are planning that trip with over 100 volunteers to go to Dominica during Trinidad and Tobago's Carnival.
That's 2016. I know of ADRA being also responding to cases in Grenada when Grenada experienced Hurricane Ivan.
Ivan, yes.
And Tobago also was involved.
But even more recently, when there was the disaster in St. Vincent.
That's about two years ago,
2013.
There you go.
The eve of Christmas. In short order, in fact, the very carnival thereafter, a contingent from Trinidad and Tobago, representing ADRA, went down to St. Vincent and spent the entire week again of carnival because it's convenient for us. We don't wine and jam. We work and bring relief to people. And so we took the opportunity to go down there and to engage or participate in the mop-up operation and to help in some construction work.
What's the construction? What do you mean?
Oh, well, if buildings have been affected and need restoration, we would participate in that. We helped restore quite a number of buildings, schools, churches, homes on the last occasion. And we are hoping when we go to Dominica this time to, in fact, construct 8 homes.
Beautiful. How bad was Dominica affected?
Dominica was unprecedented for the Caribbean.
I should tell you, though, that I have a heart for Dominica because my mother is from Dominica.
Oh, is that so?
That's right. She's deceased now, but she's
perhaps we should recruit you for that trip as well.
I'm already recruited, sir.
But Dominica, thank God for the technology that we have today. We were able to track the event from the moment it began, so that we were able to see images and to get the stories coming out of Dominica of all the mudslides and the flooding and the devastation that took place as homes were destroyed and as lives were destroyed. There was a friend of mine who lost 5 members of his family in that Dominica disaster.
5?
Yes. And in fact, the death toll is beyond 30. And my information is that some of those people who have died, their bodies were never recovered. So you could imagine the psychological trauma that their families, their survivors, are still experiencing and that they have not been able to bring closure.
I tell you. And of course, there's emotional trauma as well.
Oh, certainly.
Having lost.
as we talk about what we are going for, the reason we are going is because some 300 plus homes have become uninhabitable. Not that they were altogether destroyed, but the community remains a disaster zone, and so the government has taken a position that they would evacuate the entire community. So they're in the process of rebuilding homes to accommodate those people. Some people are still in shelters, some people are being put up by relatives, by friends, some people are in community centers, in schools, in churches, etc. And we want to participate in bringing back some normalcy to the lives of Dominicans as we go about the business of helping in the construction of those 8 homes.
Samuel, you are vice president of ADRA, but you're also a Christian.
Yes, I am.
Of maybe 40 years.
Yes, exactly.
And growing. Certainly you would have met persons who have experienced disaster in one way or another.
All the time.
What do you say to such a person?
Well, depending on the situation, each situation is unique, and there is no template per se, except to have love in the first instance for those who are experiencing some plight or another. And you try to give people the assurance that first of all you care for them, that you may not know everything that they're experiencing, but you're attempting to understand what they're going through, that you are sympathetic towards their plight, and that you are willing to do something to bring about some relief. And why is this? Why am I not preoccupied with me? Because certainly all of us have our own challenges, but we go beyond ourselves because of the love of God to bring some relief to our brother and our sister wherever we might find them.
Because you appreciate it. The easiest part is to rebuild their homes.
Yes, most certainly.
Or displace them, or
Yes.
But to rebuild the infrastructure of their hearts.
Their lives. Yes.
It's difficult because you've lost a loved one who can never be returned.
Yes.
Regardless of what you do. But in the midst of that, they may be questioning the authenticity of this God that we serve.
Oh, yes.
How do you respond to somebody who challenges God, who actually puts his fist in the nostrils of Almighty God?
I have even seen Christians of decades question the existence and the love of God when disaster hits home. So it is quite understandable that people would want to, in their reeling from the disaster, reassert whether in fact God is real and whether he truly loves them. That is partly our job, to give them that assurance. The Bible says that they would overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. What I tell someone, because of my experience with God, goes a long way in helping them to reconstruct their lives, to reconstruct their hope. And I'm not about rushing anybody, because I don't know how deeply they're hurting. But I certainly want to be there to give them a shoulder to lean on and to remind them that God is love. They may not be in a position to accept it altogether, but I am going to be there to reassure them.
Theologically speaking.
Yes.
Because you are talking to some theological minds as well.
Yes.
Good God, bad world. Why?
Yes.
Where did this come from? How could you marry the two? How could you put the two in the same sentence?
Cosmic conflict. and that by translation means the Bible tells us in Revelation chapter 12 there was war in heaven.
Come on now.
And that old dragon and his supporters fought. And 1/3 of the stars of heaven, the angelic host, the intelligent universe, if you would, accepted the allegations leveled against God by Lucifer, Satan. And the Bible declares that they saw Lucifer fall from heaven. He came down so quickly. I think it was the boot of Jesus, right? But the war continues. He didn't give up because he was thrown out of heaven. He continued to accuse God, and he continues to afflict the people of God who were made in God's image. Because if you can't hurt the Father, perhaps if you touch the child, you would hurt him in so much a deeper way. God says, in fact, about us, that you are the apple of my eye. He that toucheth you, toucheth it. So if you really want to hurt God, go after the ones he loves. And that's what Satan's business is all about.
I tell you. And of course, the converse to the argument is that if you are saying that there can't be a good God in the midst of a bad world, my question is, if the world were good, would you have served the good God? Some may beg to differ.
Well, some people go for the argument that was proffered by Satan in the intergalactical convention that God convened. When he represented the earth, and he says, Job is only serving you because you fix him up good. He's the richest man in the world.
Right.
Well, you know, he has reason to serve you.
Right.
But what about me? I'm not the richest man, not even in the room. And I'm still serving God, like so many other faithful Christians are.
Right.
So God has touched my life.
Right.
And he has made much of a difference
Right.
in what could have been my experience.
Very good.
And I am grateful to God.
Right.
I am therefore going to translate that gratitude into touching other people's lives and helping them to appreciate the God that I know.
You're very beautiful, beautiful. And you know, in a sense, when God allows certain things to happen, it's because he knows he has the power to remedy the situation.
Yes.
So once you have an ailment,
that's my consolation.
There's a cure.
That's my consolation.
Pastor Samuel, I can ask you to conclude the program by telling us, what lessons can we learn from disasters?
Well, we've learned some significant lessons because ADRA has been involved in disaster relief operations in the Diego Martin area 2 years ago, 3 years ago, in the St. Vincent community, and all over. ADRA continues to touch lives by engaging in what ADRA has coined its Happy Home Project. So we're building homes in Trinidad for the less fortunate. ADRA is partnering with Habitat for Humanity because they have resources that we don't have, but we have heart. Not that they don't, but we have heart.
Right.
And we are partnering with the ODPM and the regional corporations that have state resources. And we've come to realize that part of the reason why disasters impact as much as they do is because people are not adequately prepared. So ADRA has gone on a program of training people to be prepared for disasters because disasters will come.
Right.
And the better prepared you are, the less damage you will suffer in some instances, and the better you are able to rebound. The communities are empowered, and long before external help arrives, you are able to begin propping up each other. And so we have shelter managers trained so that the schools and the churches in your community, you could house people whose homes might be damaged. We have people trained in first aid and other life support skills. And we continue to train people so that they be ready for when the event occurs, they could survive it.
Beautiful. And of course, you partner with God.
Oh, most certainly. He's our CEO.
And there's no better way to be prepared than to be prepared with God. He's still our refuge and our strength in the time of trouble. I take my cue from Martha and Mary when Jesus came at the point of Lazarus' death, and they said, Lord, if you had been here, this would not have happened. Lord, if you were alive, hurricanes would not take place. Oh yes, he is alive. That's why he allowed it to take place. Not because he wants to hurt you, but he wants to show you that at the end of the day, he will have the final say because he is the resurrection and the life. Trust him today. Despite what you're going through, turn your life over to him today and watch him turn your troubles around. And if he doesn't turn your troubles around, I guarantee you, he can turn your life around. JC 24/7. Try him. Thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we look forward to having you once again. Thank you, Pastor Samuel.
Keep dreaming.